The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was the white ceiling. Sterile, silent, too bright. My mouth was dry, my leg throbbed, and something cold prickled up my spine. I turned my head slowly. No one. Just machines beeping steadily, like they were more concerned about me than my own family. I had been in a car accident. Not life-threatening, just violent enough to shake me. But what hurt most wasn't the bruises. It was the silence, the absence. For 3 hours, no one came. Then, the door creaked open. Frank walked in first, not with concern, but with a groan. "The insurance premiums are going to skyrocket. Damn it, Ellen." Jason followed, barely looking up from his phone. "Mom, you okay? Wait, hold on. Just need to finish this text." And then Tina. Her voice is chirpy, fake sweet. "So, how long is she staying here? Do we have to, take care of her?" They stood at the foot of my bed like I was an old lamp someone found in the attic. I didn't speak. I didn't blink. I didn't cry. I watched. The nurse asked if I remembered what had happened. I paused, then slowly shook my head. "Nothing," I whispered. I don't remember anything." Frank sighed with relief. "Well, maybe that's for the best." That night, when they all left, the nurse adjusted my blankets and said, "Try to get some rest, Ellen." I waited until the door clicked shut behind her. Then I sat up, reached for the call button. Pressed it once. When the doctor walked in, I looked him straight in the eye and said, calm and clear, "I don't remember anything, not even my family." He frowned, concerned. He started scribbling notes. I laid back, closed my eyes, and let the mask settle over me. Because the truth was, my memory was perfect. I remembered everything. The lipstick on Frank's collar. The whispers when he thought I was asleep. The name Clarissa flashes on his phone at midnight. This accident didn't break me, it freed me, and now I was going to make them all pay for pretending I didn't matter, one lie at a time. They brought me home like I was a broken vase, propped up gently, told not to move too much, offered juice I didn't ask for. Everything was suddenly too much for me. Too many questions, too much noise, too much information. And yet, for Das, people so concerned about my fragile state, they sure had a lot of private conversations just a few feet away. Jason was the first to slip. One afternoon, he came home with a folder tucked under his arm. I was sitting on the couch, watching the TV. He didn't think I noticed when he pulled out a page and muttered, "Just need Mom to sign here, and we can finally clear her off the title." He walked away, tossing the folder onto the kitchen counter as if I couldn't possibly read. Of course I read it. I waited for the room to empty, then dragged my aching leg over and flipped through the papers. He was preparing to sell my share of the house, quietly, illegally. I slipped the document back exactly where he left it. Then I smiled. Let the game begin. The next day, Tina came in with a tray of tea and a pastel folder. "I know you don't remember much, Mom," she said, using the word like it was poison dipped in sugar. "But we found some old forms you used to sign every year. Just housekeeping stuff, property management, taxes, all standard." She placed a pen gently in my hand. "We've always trusted you to handle these, remember?" I blinked, tilted my head. I don't really understand." "That's okay, sweetie. Just sign here and we'll take care of everything." I smiled, signed a random scribble, nowhere near the line. She sighed, irritated, but didn't say a word. I looked confused. She looked annoyed. I was winning. Frank was worse. He didn't even try to pretend. Most nights he came home late, reeking of cologne I never wore. One afternoon, I heard heels in the hallway while I lay on the couch, eyes half shut. A woman giggled in the kitchen. Frank whispered, "She doesn't know what day it is. Don't worry." I blinked slowly, let a single tear roll down my cheek. Not because I was sad, because I was livid. They thought I was gone. They thought I had disappeared inside my own head. But I was right there, watching. What they didn't know was that they were being watched too. 2 days after I got home, placed a tiny voice-activated camera inside the living room lamp. It was barely the size of a match head, gifted to me years ago by my old friend Margaret, who used to work private security before retirement. "You'd be surprised how fast people show their true selves when they think no one's watching," she told me once. Margaret always was a wise woman. The camera recorded everything. Jason's phone calls about cashing out early. Tina's whispered curses when I fumbled too slowly. Frank's full conversations with a woman named Ray, who apparently liked whiskey, hip-hop, and married men. At night, when the house was quiet, I'd sit in my room and play the recordings back through my tablet, headphones in, heart calm. I cataloged their betrayal like a scientist. Date, time, voice, threat, evidence. I never said a word. I just smiled more, nodded more, asked silly questions like, "What does deed mean again?" Or, "Why is that lady in Daddy's lap?" They laughed, mocked me behind closed doors, and every word became another nail in the coffin I was building. For all of them. I wasn't their burden. I was their reckoning. And soon, they'd learn exactly what happens when you mistake silence for weakness. I was sitting on the porch knitting a scarf I had no intention of finishing when I heard Jason's voice through the open window behind me. "Look, once she's in the facility, the house is ours. We can convert the guest room into an office. Finally get some peace. She's not getting better, so what's the point?" His voice was casual, like he was talking about a broken appliance, not his mother. "I'll tell her it's temporary. Just a place to help with her memory. A few weeks tops. She'll forget the plan before we even drive her there." A beat of silence. Then Tina answered, laughing softly. "She'll sign whatever we put in front of her. I'm already adjusting her meds. She sleeps like a rock now. Might as well be a corpse." I froze. They wanted me out. Officially, permanently. They were done pretending. That night, Tina brought in my usual evening pills with a too-sweet smile. "Sleep tight, Mom. These will help you rest better." I smiled back. "Thank, you, sweetheart. You're always so thoughtful." She watched as I popped the pills into my mouth, gulped down the water, and smiled again. She walked away satisfied. The moment the door closed, I reached under my tongue and spat the pills into a tissue. They hadn't expected I'd learned to fake swallowing during chemo 10 years ago, when the nausea was too much. But I never forgot. I never forgot anything. The pills were definitely not mine. Slightly larger, coated, tranquilizers maybe, enough to keep me quiet, confused, compliant, but I had no intention of being any of those things. Instead, I planned my own episode, the bye. Next afternoon, I staged my performance. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, eyes vacant, body swaying. As Tina stepped in, I let my knees buckle, collapsed, perfectly timed onto the tiles, my breath shallow, my gaze distant. "Oh my God, Frank! She's having one of her episodes again." They hovered over me, called the nurse hotline, waited for the on-call practitioner to arrive. While they were distracted, I came to just enough to mumble, "I think I need the bathroom." Tina, annoyed, helped me down the hall, opened the door to the guest room, the one she and Jason had turned into her private office, and then left to get her phone. I had 2 minutes. That was all I needed. Inside, I moved fast. I knew where she kept her locked drawer, bottom cabinet, left side. A thin bobby pin I'd taped behind my wrist came free with a flick. I picked the lock. Inside, bank statements, hidden accounts, forged documents. She had been moving my pension money, signing my name, transferring ownership of the family savings to an account under her maiden name. I took photos, every page, every transaction, every signature. I unlocked the drawer, flushed the toilet for effect, and stepped back into the hallway, dazed and slow. Back in my room, I uploaded everything to a private cloud folder. The password? Clarissa 1984. It was time to get my life back. The next day, while Tina and Jason were out shopping for new patio furniture, as if I was already gone, I called a lawyer. A quiet, sharp woman recommended by Margaret. Her name was Kendra, and she didn't ask unnecessary questions. "Just email me the documents," she said. "If even half of this is legit, we're going to ruin them." Later that night, my phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. He said she's dumb as a rock now. We'll be living there soon. Clarissa the mistress. Texted me. By mistake. I stared at the screen, my blood cold. Then I grinned. I typed back, looking forward to it. Should I prepare your room next to the rats? No response. Of course. Not. They thought they were erasing me, but I was just getting started. They tried to drug me, trick me, steal from me. Now they were going to find out what happened when a woman with nothing left finally decided to fight back. No more knitting. No more tea, it was war and I had receipts. The call came in right after lunch. I made sure Jason was home to answer it. Hello? Yes, this is her son. A donation? What kind of... Wait, what did she say she was giving you? He looked up, eyes wide. My mother's jewelry collection? She agreed to give you the whole thing for a charity auction? He shot me a look like I just offered up a kidney to a stranger. I blinked slowly, feigning confusion. They help orphans? I said weakly. They sounded so nice on the phone. I thought it was the right thing to do. Jason nearly knocked over a chair as he ran to the master bedroom. I followed, slow and steady, limping like a good little amnesiac. He yanked open the closet, threw back the panel behind the coats, and punched in the safe code. Beep, 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 click. Then silence. The safe was empty. Not just the jewelry, the cash, the birth certificates, the old documents, gone. Jason's face drained of color like a sink swirling down. Where is it? He whispered. I tilted my head. The what? He turned to me, shaking with barely contained rage. What did you do with it? I don't remember, I murmured. He slammed the closet door so hard the frame cracked. That night at dinner, I stirred my soup slowly, watching the way they glanced at each other, nervous, twitchy. Tina barely touched her plate. Frank tapped his fork against the table in a restless rhythm. Jason kept glancing toward the hallway. Who are you people again? I asked suddenly, wide-eyed and soft. 3 pairs of eyes snapped toward me. Frank blinked. What the hell are you talking about, Ellen? You're my husband? I said slowly, furrowing my brow. And you two are... Tina rolled her eyes. Not this again. But Jason leaned forward. Mom, are you okay? I feel like I've never been here before, I whispered. Frank groaned. She's just doing this to mess with us. Tina snapped. Maybe if you hadn't brought your mistress into the kitchen last week. Frank slammed his hand on the table. Don't start! And just like that, they turned on each other. Voices rising, accusations flying, each more desperate than the last. I sipped my soup and let them burn. I had already set the fire, and they were too busy screaming to see the smoke. Later that evening, a knock came at the door. Jason opened it, and a man in a gray suit handed him a white envelope. He opened it, scanned the first page, and froze. IRS? He breathed. What the... Audit. Immediate. Backdated 5 years. His side business. The one he thought was too small to notice. He turned to me slowly, suspicion dawning like a storm behind his eyes. What did you do? He whispered. I blinked. I'm sorry. What's an IRS? He stormed out of the room, the envelope crushed in his fist. I stood and walked to the living room, sat down, reached for the remote, but didn't turn on the TV. Instead, I picked up my old phone, tapped twice, and let the audio play. Tina's voice filled the air. I'm telling you, she's barely conscious. If I copy her signature on these, no one will ever know. Old people forget everything. By the time she realizes it, it'll be too late. Her voice, smug, confidence, stupid. The room went dead silent. I turned to face them. Calm, clear, cold. You should have left me in the hospital, I said, voice even. I would have shown you mercy then. Tina's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Frank looked like he was choking on his tongue. Jason stood frozen in the hallway, the IRS letter still in his hand. I placed the phone on the table, stood, straightened. my blouse, smoothed my hair. I may forget a name, a face, a date, I said softly, but I will never forget betrayal. They watched me walk down the hall and close my bedroom door. Inside, I smiled, because this wasn't the end. This was just the warning shot. It started with invitations, handwritten, delicate, and just vague enough to stir curiosity. Family celebration at the Harper residence, 7 p.m. Sunday. Food, music, and memories. I handed them out myself, one to Mrs. Clements next door, one to Margaret and the old book club girls, one to the nosy couple who always peeked through their blinds. I even mailed one to our old pastor and, most importantly, one to our family lawyer, Mr. Alden. Jason thought I'd finally lost it. A party? For what? Who even wants to see you drooling over mashed potatoes? I smiled sweetly. It's important to honor what little I remember. By 6:45, the house was dressed up better than it ever had been. String lights hung across the backyard. Platters of food lined the tables. Tina had ordered everything, of course, too lazy to cook. At 7 sharp, the guests arrived. Laughter, small talk, sips of wine. Jason gritted his teeth through every hug. Tina hovered like a hostess on her last nerve. Frank stayed inside with a glass of whiskey, refusing to smile. And I stood in the center of it all, calm as still water. At 7:25, I tapped a spoon against a glass. Thank you, everyone, I said. For being here tonight, I may not remember every face, but I remember feelings. And tonight, I wanted to share something very close to my heart. Jason rolled his eyes. Tina looked down at her phone. Frank lit a cigar. I picked up the remote and pressed play. The speakers crackled. Then came Tina's voice. She's barely conscious. I can forge her signature. She won't even know. Then Jason. Once she's out, we can finally get rid of all that junk she calls jewelry. Frank laughing. Clarissa's younger, smarter. Ellen's just a name on a mortgage. Gasps filled the air. Glasses froze midair. Mrs. Clements covered her mouth. Margaret let out a low whistle, and then came the clip of Frank kissing Clarissa. In our kitchen, right beneath the family portrait, the screen went black. Silence. Then footsteps. Mr. Alden. The lawyer stepped forward and placed an envelope squarely in front of Frank. Mr. Harper, he said, loud and clear. Your wife has officially filed for divorce. All documentation is in order. You may want to read the section on asset division. Carefully. Frank's face went bloodless. Tina choked on her drink. Jason was already backing toward the house. I looked at them one last time. I may have lost my memory, I said, my voice steady, ringing through the yard. But not my self-respect. And then, in front of a dozen stunned faces, I turned and walked out the front gate. My suitcase was already packed. My phone is already wiped. At the bus station, I opened a new email, ellen.marchiecoastlightmail.com, new name. New life. The seaside cottage I bought 2 weeks ago was waiting. Small, quiet, with blue shutters and a garden no one had ruined. That night, I slept with the window open, listening to the waves, and for the first time in years, no one called my name, and I didn't miss it one bit. The cottage sits on a cliffside overlooking the ocean. White walls, blue shutters. Silence. I fill it with warmth, not with voices or visitors, but with light. Candles. I make them by hand. Each one poured slowly, patiently, like I'm carving. The truth into wax. They're sold through a tiny online shop I built myself. I never mention my name, just a logo, a tagline, and the titles. Each scent tells a story. Greed smells like scorched wood and iron. Betrayal carries notes of blackcurrant and bitter citrus. Cowardice? Cold mint and fading smoke. I ship them all over the country. People love them, though they don't know why. They just say it makes them feel seen. On Tuesdays and Fridays, I record videos. Nothing fancy, just me, in a knit cardigan, sitting in front of the fireplace. Today, we're talking about power, of attorney, what it really means and how to protect yourself. Here's how to read a deed before you sign it, especially if your own children are handing it to you. Women comment from all over. My daughter tried to do this to me. I thought I was alone. You've saved me. The views climb. The shares multiply. Somehow, I've become someone people listen to. One afternoon, while stirring wax for a new batch, pity, my phone buzzes. Unknown number. A single message. Mom. We were wrong. Please call me. Jason and I stare at it for a long moment. He doesn't ask how I am. He doesn't say he misses me. He doesn't say sorry, just, please call me. I set the phone down. No anger, no sadness, just clarity. Then, I walked to my shelf. I lit a candle I've been saving. It's deep red, clean burn, soft glow. The label reads, Freedom. I sit by the window as the sun dips behind the sea. My tea is warm, my world is quiet, and for the first time in my life, I belong completely to myself.